Blessed to be a part of your day. K. Millie in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Out to our friend Lars Larson joining us now. Nationally syndicated talk show host, man of the world, off of show, getting ready to go to CPAC. He's everywhere. Goes occasionally to Israel. You're everywhere, Lars. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. I'm going to see you at CPAC, right?
Well, probably not this year.
Oh, shoot.
But we are working on that. And, we always appreciate you helping us out with our trips to Washington, and we're thankful for you being our mentor, sir. So good to have you with us.
Well, I got to tell you something. We will miss you, but then you'll make it for 2020. And, of course, a big presidential election year will be a good time to be at CPAC. Although, have you heard Senator Warren, Pocahontas, has already been suggesting that Donald Trump will be in prison by the 2020 election. She said that on tape over the weekend. And I don't know where she's getting her inside details, but I think he's actually doing better right now. He's got a 52% approval rating, according to the latest polls. And, yeah, a lot of people still don't like him, but an awful lot of Americans love the guy, and I include myself in that group.
Well, and you've interviewed the president, and hopefully you'll get another shot at him. Lars, as someone who has continued to champion American values and ideas in that territory you live in the Northwest, Portland, God bless you, brother. The idea that you have so many young people embracing socialism, and not just the wackos and the crazies, but mainstream presidential candidates from the Democratic Party. Again, we fought socialism for years, Lars. What's at stake?
Well, here's what's at stake. Socialism can never be done as a choice. Socialism always has to be done at the point of a gun. And you could understand why. The countries that have gone socialist over the last 100 years in the world have done so by force. People may not remember this because not an awful lot of the high school teachers will emphasize this. Some do. But the Nazis were the National Socialist Party of Germany. They believed in socialism. And how did you impose socialism? Generally, Kevin, if you go to somebody and say, hey, tell you what, you've been very successful. Why don't we take half your paycheck and give it to somebody who's unwilling to work, the way Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has proposed in her new Green Deal. Now, I will tell you, there may be a few people out there, Kevin, you might even get callers who say, I'd be happy to give half my paycheck to somebody who isn't willing to work as hard as I do. But I'll bet you're not going to find too many people like that. Most people listening to this show right now in Boise are saying, I worked hard to get to my position, whatever my position is, to earn the paycheck I'm making now. I'm worth it. My boss believes I'm worth every penny of that paycheck, and I'm not giving up that paycheck for somebody who's not willing to work. So socialism has to be done at the point of a gun. And once you do it, you take away an awful lot of the incentive of anyone to work hard, because people will say, well, why should I work hard? You get paid the same for not working at all, or for working, in a halfway, or for working very, very hard. So what's the point? And America has some great history in this. We had some very small commonwealths that were started. They were little tiny communities, some of the original colonies here. And they tried from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs, the way Karl Marx would say a couple of hundred years later. So this was in the very early days when Europeans were coming to North America. And they very quickly found out that you starve to death if you go that route. Because when you tell the big, strong guy who's going to go out and work in the fields all day or herd cattle or sheep or whatever, and he comes in exhausted. He's been working his tail off all day long, and finds some guy in the village who's been sitting around doing next to nothing, and both of them sit down to the same dinner and live in the same house, very quickly people say, I'm not working hard at all. Even on a very small level, the only place it might actually work is in a family where, I understand families who say the big, strong kid in the family can go out and get a job. The daughter who's a few years younger, maybe we don't expect her to go get a job right now, but later on we will. And grandma has worked hard her whole life. Grandma gets to sit and just be with us and be company with us, and we'll pay all of her bills. It works for a family where you have that familial relationship. But when somebody comes to you, Kevin, and says, hey, there's another guy, in Boise who's not nearly as successful a radio guy as Kevin Miller is. Kevin, you want to give him a part of your paycheck to make up for the fact that he hasn't worked as hard to get to where he is the way you have? Who's going to say yes to that? So this idea of socialism maybe sounds good to kids who've never actually seen the way it works, but the ultimate example of how bad socialism is when the government controls the means of production. Venezuela is a good example of that. Their current annual inflation rate is 1 million%, and I'm not exaggerating. Food is hard to come by. Fuel is hard to come by. And the place is a deadly place for a lot of people. That's where socialism usually ends.
Lars Larson joining us, KIDO Talk Radio. Catch him tonight at 6, weeknight 6 to 9, right here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. The Democrats have a problem when it comes to race. You've got the situation in Virginia, and you've got this congresswoman who was now forced to apologize for being anti-Semitic.
Ilhan Omar. And not just allegedly, it's very clear that this woman who is Muslim, you can be a Muslim office holder, but if you want to keep hating Jewish people for being Jewish, if you want to keep hating the state of Israel for its very existence, you're going to have a problem because the United States is a pluralistic country, which means Kevin Miller can be a Protestant. Your next-door neighbor can be a Catholic. Your next-door neighbor to that can be Jewish. And the guy or gal on the other side of that can be Muslim. And there can be an atheist in the neighborhood. And America recognizes that all of you have the right to believe the way you choose. And the government has no business saying otherwise. So when somebody runs, if you want to be an anti-Semite and run some little store somewhere, I guess it works as long as you don't use those beliefs of yours by saying, I'm not going to sell to Jewish customers. I won't buy from a black vendor. You can't take those. You can have those private beliefs, whatever ugly beliefs you want to have, but you cannot take them to the public square. And, you can, but the very real risk for you is if you decide to have these ugly attitudes toward people about their skin color, about their religion, about their personal beliefs, then you're probably going to get punished by the community a long time before you get punished by the law or by the government. Because the government can only step in if you start to say, I won't sell gasoline to somebody because he's a Catholic, for example. There was a lot of anti-Catholic bias back in the day against John F. Kennedy. There is anti-Catholic bias today by members of Congress in the Democrat Party who don't think that Catholics should be judges because they say unless you believe that abortion is a right, you can't be a judge. Well, I think you can be a Catholic and be a judge. And in fact, the U.S. Constitution forbids a religious test for any office. You cannot say, and I remind my conservative friends who get a little unwound and they say, well, we shouldn't let Muslims serve in the Congress. They can serve in the Congress. Catholics can serve in the Congress. Jews can serve in the Congress. Atheists can serve in the Congress. I don't have to agree with their beliefs to believe that we should not have a religious test for office. On the other hand, if you're Ilhan Omar and you want to say nasty things about people because of their religious beliefs, be prepared to reap the whirlwind. And that's what she's getting right now. She's got 6 major Democrat Party leaders in Congress who've come out finally and condemned what she had to say. She has some very unsavory past associations with people like Louis Farrakhan, who, as far as I'm concerned, there isn't a whole lot of difference between Louis Farrakhan and David Duke. David Duke, the famous Klan member, was evil because of his beliefs and the way he brought them to the public square. But I don't see Louis Farrakhan as being a whole lot different. If you hate people because of their beliefs, now, you can dislike somebody for the way that they behave toward you. That's certainly allowed. But what you can't say is, and Liam Neeson, who's always been a little bit of a strange actor, you want a good example of where when somebody says, he apparently had a friend who'd been sexually assaulted 40 years ago by a black person. And so he said he carried a stick around for a few weeks, hoping that he would run into a black man that he could challenge and beat the daylights out of. So in other words, you say if somebody of a particular race, religion, ethnicity does something bad to me, that makes everybody of that race, religion, or ethnic background bad. That's bigotry, plain and simple, and we simply don't allow it. The Democrats have their share of problems, and as you said, the Commonwealth of Virginia, look where they're sitting right now. They've got 3 top Democrats, all of whom have engaged at various levels in some bad behavior, and they're saying, but we're going to kick the black statewide elected leader, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. We're going to boot him out of office, but we're going to let the governor, Ralph Northam, who apparently believes in both infanticide and has this picture. There's the big irony, Kevin. I hate to keep changing subjects, but imagine this. The Democrat Party didn't have a problem with Governor Ralph Northam within the last 2 weeks describing giving birth to a baby and then sitting down with the mother and father to decide whether they should let the baby live or not. They didn't have a problem with that. They had a problem with the fact that he had a picture of himself taken in blackface from a third of a century ago, back when he's in medical school. Now, I think the medical school stuff was stupid, and if it indicates his real, attitudes toward black citizens, he shouldn't be governor of Virginia. And I do agree that Justin Fairfax alleged violations. Now, 2 women have come forward, and we both have a good friend in Virginia who's told me there may be a 3rd woman out there whose story may emerge this week. And this is not a story like the stories the Democrats tried to use on Brett Kavanaugh, where you have a woman in Christine Blasey Ford saying, well, something happened involving Brett Kavanaugh, but I can't exactly explain when or where or who was there. I can't remember how I got there. I can't remember how I got home, but he did this stuff to me, and I never told anybody about it, not even the closest people to me in my family. I didn't say a word for 30 years. No, this is a young lady who about 17 years ago says that she and Justin Fairfax were at the Democrat National Convention, that they were friendly, but then at some point he forced her to, perform a sexual act on him, and did it by force. And she remembers dates, times, places, and told people about it at the time and couldn't get anyone to listen.
Wow.
That's a problem. That's a problem for Justin Fairfax. Now, he just flat says it didn't happen. And because he hasn't been willing to be interviewed about this, what we're really left with is a young man and a young woman, and this is not the first time this has happened, and it won't be the last time, where he says, we got busy, and both of us liked the idea, and she says, he got busy, and he did it without my consent, which is an issue. You've got to resolve that somehow. Now, there are apparently 2 women who say that the same kind of thing happened to them involving Justin Fairfax. It appears that he's going to get bounced out of office, and then you're going to have Ralph Northam picking Justin Fairfax's replacement. So that even if Northam is forced out and he says he's not going anywhere, and there's no real way to remove him, he's going to stay for the next 3 years. And the Democrats are stuck with the prospect that of the 3 statewide office holders, the Attorney General, the Lieutenant Governor, and the Governor, the one who's black is going to get bounced out of his job, and the 2 white guys are going to get to stay.
Lars Larson, great to have you with us. We appreciate you, brother.
I'm going to miss you at CPAC. Wish you were going to be going there, Kevin. Tell your boss.
I'll work on that. I need to get a hold of the contact there as well. You're always so good about that. But
if you need the contacts, I'll get them for you.
I'd appreciate that, Lars. Thank you.
You bet. Take care, Kevin.
Take care. Our great friend, Lars Larson. Let's get to the phones. We start with Max in Garden City, who's been very patient. Max, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. I'd like to go back to the issue of mobile phones in the hands of drivers. You had a caller who called in right before you spoke with Lars, and the caller suggested a software solution. Now, of course, anybody who loves their freedom should have a real issue with that. We don't need the government in our eyes, our ears, or our cars, or our pockets any more than they already are. But it seems that the middle nation state of Singapore, a very transparent democracy, has the answer. The answer is that they run, they call it a squad, but they run a little task force that stakes out various areas of town looking for this. And first offense is $1,500, and 2 points off your license. Second offense is a 3-month suspension of your license and a $4,000 fine. If there's ever a third offense, you lose driving privilege forever. And I forget what the fine is. It's something really high, like $5,000 or $6,000. That's how you stop it, with a severity of punishment and with a surety that if you keep it up, you will get caught.
No, I agree with that. I don't think $100 fine is enough. Max, anything else, sir?
No, other than that, just...
check out your blog at maxblogspot.com. What is it again?
Max Allen 321.
Max Allen
blogspot.com.
Max Allen 321 blogspot.com. I don't know if this guy has a blog spot, but he's always counting the white gold back from vacation, numerous vacations. Mike Miniger joins us. Mike Miniger's Auto Body. Miniger on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, sir, and you're usually not this patient.
I know. I'm sitting outside of work in my truck. I'd rather talk to you in my big gas hog that you don't seem to like. But you know, Kevin, I'm just going to say that. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Of course, I call her AOC. I mean, that's easier than AOC.
That's a
my
good one.
concern on this fossil fuel deal is, yeah, that sounds weird, doesn't it? AOC. It fits her perfectly. There's been talk of airplanes and cars, and we're going to do away with it, but nothing's been said about boats, Kevin. Nothing. And I want to bring that to the forefront. If we're not allowed to burn fossil fuel, what am I going to do? I don't even know. I could walk to work, but I can't walk on the water. Not yet. I'm working on it, but I'm concerned.
Well, you boat people. You're burning up you're burning up a lot of fossil fuels. And really, what are you doing? Having a good time on a boat while the rest of us are working.
Well, I try to. I work on that. But and to the marijuana thing, okay?
Well, hold on. Before we get to the marijuana thing.
Okay.
Now, as someone who you deal with people that get in collisions all the time, let's talk about how many times do you see people that have been, on the phones and they rear end somebody?
Kevin, I got to be honest with you. We're not privy to that. Your client isn't going to walk in and tell you that he was on the phone and rear-ended somebody. Those things aren't talked about. I was talking yesterday about all the years, 30-something years of sitting here and listening to everybody's accident story. And I can't tell you now. I have listened to people tell me they got ran into by a young person on a phone. I know people that are addicted to the phone. I know people. I hate to say it, but there's people in my family that just can't leave the phone alone, and it drives me absolutely crazy. I found a thing on my iPhone the other day that was pointed out to me where you can go on there and it won't let anybody text you while you're driving. And I'm into it about a week, and it is a little weird, but I'm getting real comfortable with it. Now, I've never been one to type a text out because at 66 years old, I don't have the driving acuity that I once had. I'm going to be totally frank and honest. I'm not as good a driver as I was in my 40s. And I used to drive race cars, and I'm not that good anymore. So I need everything. I need all my senses around me to get home safe and drive to work safe or go boating safe. So it's not a problem for me. And I don't know that a lot of people don't know that's on the iPhone, and I would imagine it's probably on the other phones also, the Androids. And today I'm driving to work, and I went to pick up the phone to call you. I didn't pick it up. I hit my Bluetooth and asked, but the thing popped up and said, you're not accepting anything, blah, blah, blah. So I'm kind of forgetting about it. But it's nice not having that phone go off while I'm driving because it gets to you. You're sitting here driving thinking about what somebody may have to say to you, and that's just so sick. I mean, I broke my leg when I was in grammar school, and my dad didn't know about it until he came home from work that night at like 9 o'clock, and I'm on the couch with a cast. Today, your dad would have to be at the hospital, and oh, my God, the whole family, they would know before you even got to the hospital that you broke your leg. I find that I find that ridiculous, but
Well,
I'm old, too.
well, we love you, Mike Miniger. I got to run.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. Your call's next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Out to Washington, D.C., live to the White House, exclusively on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, Fox News Radio's John Decker. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing today, Kevin?
Just anxious to hear what you have to say. A late night for the president, making news. Perhaps the shutdown will be averted. What are people talking about at the White House this morning, sir?
Well, no word from the White House yet as to whether or not the president would accept the deal, which was announced last night as the president was doing that campaign-style rally in El Paso, Texas. The deal is one in which we're told it would provide $1.375 billion for the president's border wall with Mexico. That's a lot less than what the president had been asking for. He had been asking for $5.7 billion for that border wall. That being said, I don't know what the president is going to do. He expressed some optimism last week. He knew this was essentially around the number that they being the negotiators were discussing. But we'll hear from the president in about an hour's time. He's meeting with his cabinet and will be brought in at the very top of that meeting. And I'm sure the president, if he doesn't say so himself, he'll be asked about his feelings about this deal that was worked out last night.
Well, it could be some drama to be tuned into, to watch, John, considering the president has offered no guarantees, and you have people saying, well, the Republicans would not have gone out on a limb if they didn't believe that the president would sign this, but maybe, fired up from his speech last night, maybe the president decides not to do this, which would, I don't know, that'd be like another tsunami hitting Washington, or would it?
Well, it kind of would be, because then we'd be facing the prospect of another government shutdown. That is something, obviously, that no one wants to go through again after what we went through over the course of 35 days. And Republicans also have told the president, let's not go through another government shutdown. It's not good for us. It's not good for you. So what will the president do? I do not know. I'm not going to get inside the president's head, because ultimately whether or not this deal is something that will be voted on is really up to the president, because I don't think that the House or the Senate are going to go through the motions of voting on something if the president won't sign it.
John Decker joining us exclusively from the White House right here on KIDO Talk Radio. Is there anything else on the president's schedule but just the budget negotiations? He did allude to hitting the road soon last night.
Well, the president hit the road, of course. As you know, he was got back early this morning, actually, from El Paso, Texas. Got back around 3:30 in the morning. I do not know of the president's plans to do other campaign-style rallies. Nothing's been announced by the campaign. So the president, for the remainder of the week, is going to be right here at the White House, and we'll see whether the president will be facing that prospect of a partial government shutdown on Friday, if indeed he does not agree to this deal, because, look, they need to get moving on the legislation, the votes in the House, the votes in the Senate. All that needs to start moving forward as early as today so that they can vote on that legislation and avoid what could be a partial government shutdown.
You know, it wouldn't make political sense, but the president seems to buck traditional political thought. Perhaps stirring up the hornet's nest would be a benefit to him in the White House.
Well, that's right. I think that, that there are those saying that the president ought to just move forward. Keep in mind, at the beginning of the process, before the government shutdown, Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, were offering just $1 for a border wall. Well, now it's up to almost $1.4 billion. That's a pretty significant amount of money. The president never thought that he'd get $5.7 billion, and it's going to be a down payment, because it's his own. If indeed the president agrees to this number, would only pay for about 55 miles of southern border wall, and that's not anywhere near what the president contemplated, but it's a start, and I think that's what the president would argue if indeed he accepts this deal.
John Decker, we always appreciate you, and thank you for joining us again, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a great day. Talk to you real soon. All
right, John Decker joining us from Fox News to the Gem State Patriot, gemstatepatriot.com. Tea Party Bob joins us on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today?
Me, I am living the dream, I believe, allegedly.
So suppose it turns into a nightmare. Then what are you going to do?
Wake up.
You know, we had another chance to see the brilliance of Donald Trump last night at the rally in El Paso. Now, he is the greatest negotiator of our time, and that is now showing itself with his 52% approval rating after the State of the Union address. Now, the Democrats are coming at him hot and heavy and spinning their wheels and getting nowhere. You know, just look at that jerk Beto who ran a counter rally across the street in his own hometown and couldn't even come close to the numbers that Trump had at his group. You know, congressional committees have already sent him 79 requests for information to the White House for congressional investigations into his businesses, if you can imagine that. We have one very dysfunctional government, and in the world yet, with Donald Trump at the helm, we have one of the greatest economic booms in our history. The Democrats are running in circles, and the socialist policies that they're promoting and trying to gain traction with the millennial crowd are slowly but surely coming to the ground. And I think they're going to take a real big dump in this next election in 2020. Trump's growing the economy. He's fixing foreign relations. He's redoing our trade policies so that we get treated fairly. And I'm hoping Trump does not give on our wall and takes action outside of Congress, because the deal they are offering him is not good for the American people. And he needs to take a stand while he still has the public behind him. It seems that no matter what they throw at him, it just bounces off, makes them look bad. And if it weren't for the fake news, his ratings would probably be in the 60s. I wanted to say one thing about the hemp discussion you had this morning. I've told you before that I'm not for the legalization of marijuana, but I am for the medicinal use of CBD oil and the legislation of growing industrial hemp. A little known fact is that industrial hemp is extremely profitable to the tune of $30,000 per acre, whereas corn only yields about $8 an acre. Another important little known fact is that marijuana growers don't want hemp planted near their crops, as they cross-pollinate and cause the marijuana to lose potency of its THC. So there's a couple of positive effects here. You get more money, and you reduce the people who want to grow marijuana anywhere near you. You know, I understand there's a bill that's going to be introduced in the legislature that would legalize industrial hemp here.
Sure.
It would be good for the farmers. They get higher profits. And, you know, when you take a look at it, it's not something that's going to cause a problem. Industrial hemp has been around for years.
We've lived without hemp for how many years? We don't need the hemp. Say no to hemp.
Well, you say no to hemp. I'm going to say yes to hemp so we can sit there and argue with each other until we're blue in the face.
I believe myself, the governor, the people.
You have to look at the economics.
I'm looking at the economics. The governor, the people are on the side of Kevin Miller.
No, you say that, but I don't think you're right, because I don't think the farmers understand how much they can make from this.
You know, the farmers are doing quite well in this state. They don't need to be doing hemp. They're good.
Well, they do want it, that's for sure, and you're going to find that out.
We'll see. We'll find that out, buddy.
Yes, indeed, buddy.
Thank you, Tea Party Bob.
Have yourself a great day, Kevin.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Tea Party Bob. Let's go to Aquaman with Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Aquaman.
Good morning, sir. You're kind of a sci-fi fan, aren't you?
Yeah, you know, my one of my favorite sci-fi things, we were doing this on Facebook the other day, Space 1999. You know about that one, Aquaman?
I don't.
Ooh.
You can enlighten me if you have time.
Space 1999 was a series back, I think, in the late 70s, where the moon broke away from the Earth. The Earth, I think, was destroyed, and they had this thing called Moonbase Alpha, and it came out right after Star Wars. It was a cult classic, 4 or 5 years, but think about this when you're a little kid, Aquaman, and they say Space 1999. Now you say 1999, you feel so old because it was so long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there, because I still think about, Saturday afternoons watching Lands of the Lost. So.
Was that with like the lizard people or those weirdo things where they'd like go in the hill and all of us? I mean, those things were creepy.
Police stacks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Police stacks. Well, wanted to kind of get into something also from the 70s was SALT I and SALT II treaties. We had some pretty cool nuclear technology going on, speaking of clean energy, when our good friend and Democrat Jimmy Carter passed the SALT I and the SALT II treaty, and it really hurt the development of clean nuclear energy. And one of the things that those lids of ours, they don't like to talk about is what is going to generate the electricity that they love to use so much. And when it comes to energy and energy density, I am no engineer, but I understand that Air Force One, as far as I know, is not solar powered. But we've got right here in our backyard at INL some of the most sophisticated nuclear technology on planet Earth. You don't hear a whole lot about it because those devious little libs did such a great job of demonizing nuclear energy in the 70s and 80s. But according to some of the best minds from MIT, if we move forward with that dirty little N-word nuclear, there's enough reusable energy just in the waste, up to 82% of the waste that's been stored in those non-spent nuclear fuel rods. They're just sitting there to power our country for the next 85 years. And so, you know, this is kind of where if they want to talk green, that's great. But I don't hear them talking about what they're going to do to generate all those BTUs.
It's a lot of hot air, Aquaman. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right. Space 1999. Check that out. Doug in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I like our president all the way around, everything he does. And if I was him, I would look right at him and go, no. And I'd shut the government down. You know, what happened? My brother and me were just talking. What happened to all of us folks when, what's his name, the one that's from South Africa was in, and all the jobs went away, and all of the government people were working? I didn't hear any of us crying about, I ain't got a job. I went and looked for more work and went somewhere else. You know what? They need to cut government jobs. I'm all for him shutting it down. Shut it down. Tell Pelosi and Schumer, you know what? Stick it right where the sun doesn't shine. Because I think the people are waking up to this. So, and all they want it for, folks, is votes. Dirty little freaking votes that ain't freaking American. That's what they want it for, period. So I'm all for them. Shut it down again. I could care less, Kevin.
Doug, great point. Nobody cared for us when Obama fired all of us.
No, hell no, Kevin. I mean, it was just like tough. All them jobs went away. They're never coming back. Well, look what this man has done, people. Wake up. I mean, if I was him, I wish I'd have seen him already tweet back over there in Virginia with all the Democrats that are dirty, that hate the blacks, you know, who I'm talking about. It's all over the news, and now the Democrats and the news media is trying to cover it up. Well, I'd look right there at him, and I'd tweet, and I'd go, gee, what would you lose voting for me? That was part of his platform, wasn't it? And look at all of the Republican black people that are employed and working. So pull your heads out of your you-know-what, people. They ain't there for you or me. They're there for themselves and Mr. Soros and the next bunch of votes that come across the border. I've said enough, Kevin.
God bless you, Doug. We appreciate your call and for telling the truth right here on the radio. Now, last night, the president, telling the truth once again, had this to say concerning socialism and taking a train to Hawaii. Have you heard this? The president responding to the socialists.
What we're doing now, we are a hot, hot country. Last week, They introduced a massive government takeover that would destroy our incredible economic gains. They introduced the so-called Green New Deal.
There you have it. The president's response coming up next. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Still lots of time to join the show before Glenn Beck, right here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
It would shut down a little thing called air travel. How do you take a train to Europe? You know, this...
That's right, President Trump. How do you take a train to Europe? Those devious little libs, they want to take away everything from us.
It would shut down American energy, which I don't think the people in Texas are going to be happy with that.
And that's why we continue to stand proudly on the Stop Socialism Express with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Holly in Caldwell with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning. I agree with the caller that if we want to make sure our country doesn't become any more socialist than it is, that we have to take the action now to limit the federal jobs, limit those agencies, and to expand on the climate change religion that we were talking about yesterday. The overall goal from the higher-ups that preach that false religion, they really think that man is a species that needs to be limited, and that's how you do it, is you take away their resources and their ability to provide for themselves.
Well, that's their agenda. Holly, thank you for the call. Traffic and weather together. Our time is 8:56.
107's Eric Everett.
And I'm Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Don't go away. Glenn Beck coming up very soon.
When they get honest, when the media starts becoming honest, and maybe they will, because we've done something that's never been done before. We have suffered a totally dishonest media, and we've won, and it's driving them crazy.
And to quote the New England Patriots, to quote the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots, we're still here. We're still here, and they don't like it. Let's go to Jerry in Eagle with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning. I just wanted to say that I support the last two callers and the guys who called earlier. He sees what I see, and we need to all see that we are in a civil war against the Marxist Communist Democrat Party.
The deep
this
state.
Party has
the
had
deep
a
state,
carefully
Jerry.
orchestrated plan.
Right. The deep state.
It is. But we need to call it what it is. It is the Marxist Communist Democrat Party and some of the right-wing, ultra-rich puppet holders who control the leaders in the Republican RNC also are involved in it. And President Trump now is in a position to put it onto the Democrat Party by shutting down the government. He should do that immediately once he gets his answer, which is going to be no funding, no real funding, and tell him that I will build the wall. I'm shutting down government, and I'm going to back it up by holding in abeyance the ability to call a national emergency. And I'm going to continue to move troops at every need to the border, and we will build a temporary base on the border.
Call, Jerry. We appreciate that. And you have the governor of California saying that he is withdrawing his troops. Pro-life, bring us home. KIDO Talk Radio, go.
Yeah, splitting atoms, you murdered an atom. Aquaman is wrong about that, and we don't want to murder anything, especially our babies.
Fair enough, pro-life. God bless everyone. Ray and I, great job. Keep the faith. Glenn Beck is next. Stay tuned.